Hey everybody, welcome. We are moments away here from a press conference given by Gavin Newsom. This is in the immediate aftermath of this redistricting being pushed through the Assembly and the State House here in California. They were able to pass the legislature here, so now it will go to Governor Newsom's desk. This thing will get signed into law, and what this means now is that California will have the opportunity to vote on whether or not to temporarily disband the Independent Redistricting Commission here in this state. A few points here. One, if you subscribe to this channel, you know that I've been spending a lot of time speaking about Gavin Newsom. I think that that I should give all of the incentive in the world for other governors to recognize all of the attention that Gavin Newsom is getting by virtue of fighting, by virtue of putting it all on the line here, and give them some incentive to do the same thing in their own respective states. This is a rare instance where a Democrat is actually opting to fight back. And so if ever there was a moment to give them some positive reinforcement, this is it. We have been begging collectively, everybody in the Democratic base, begging the Democratic Party to fight back, to learn how to fight fire with fire, to not be the party of strongly worded letters anymore. And for so long, the Democrats have pushed back on this idea and have kind of deferred to good governance and protecting the institutions and the filibuster and processes and the parliamentarian, all of those things in this kind of like amnesia of why they're there. At their core, these elected officials are there not to defend the processes of government. They are there to help people. And if those processes stand in the way, then barrel through those processes so that you can actually start helping people. And by the way, it's only when you help people that they have some trust in you that they will vote you back into office. But if you promise something and fail to deliver because you're more focused on the filibuster or the parliamentarian than the actual thing you're in office to do, protect healthcare, combat climate change, protect kids in schools from gun violence, protect union workers, whatever it may be, raise the wage, codify reproductive rights, whatever it may be. If you are focused more on the processes of government and protecting the institutions than you are actually delivering for people, then there's no reason for those people to vote you back into office. So this is a rare instance where we have a Democrat who is actually fighting back, actually fighting fire with fire. And so he deserves credit for not only doing it, he also deserves credit. He also deserves to be highlighted so that, again, it gives something out of an incentive structure for other governors out there to see, hey, look at all this attention Gavin Newsom is getting. I'm going to replicate this strategy because I too want attention. And so that's my goal here by focusing on this stuff so frequently on a daily basis, not just to give Newsom his kudos, which I absolutely think he deserves here, irrespective of how you view Gavin Newsom in the broader scheme of politics. There are people who are watching that don't like his policies, whatever it may be. In a vacuum, this is exactly what we need Democrats to do, which is to fight fire with fire, to push back against everything, the extrajudicial measures that Republicans are taking right now, the threats against democracy. And I want other governors to see this and to do the same thing. I want the next person who has higher political ambitions to say, hey, what's the best way to get some attention for myself? What's the best way to grow my social media channels? What's the best way to make sure that I get on the news? What's the best way to make sure that I can land interviews with influencers and get on social media and have my stuff go viral online? We're showing you. The roadmap is right here. It's working for somebody. So it's not a secret how you garner attention, how you garner respect, how you garner trust, and how you garner approval in this media environment. It's not just to say the right things. It is to do the right things. And that's what we're seeing from the governor of California. So I would charge all of those other politicians out there, who wants to be next? Is it going to be J.B. Pritzker in Illinois? Is it going to be Kathy Hochul in New York? Is it going to be Wes Moore in Maryland? Is it going to be Tina Kotek in Oregon? Is it going to be Jared Polis in Colorado? Is it going to be Ferguson in Washington? There are other governors out there who have the ability to wield some power in their states. And so if ever there was a time to do it, if ever there was a time to meet the moment with the urgency that it deserves, it is right now. If you've built up any goodwill from your voters, now is the time to cash in on that. Why save your political capital for any time other than this overt threat against democracy? Republicans are redrawing the maps right now. This is it. If they are successful in their effort, then they will be able to scientifically engineer House maps that prevent Democrats from ever being able to hold power. If that's not a 5-alarm fire, I don't know what is. If that's not the ultimate existential threat, not just for the Democratic Party, but for democracy, entrenched Republican rule, at the same time that they have an executive who's deploying the military against American cities, I don't know what is. Why build up political capital if you're not going to cash it out right now? This is the time. This is the time to use it. You've got support from the base. There's no reason not to. It's not only the morally right thing to do, it is the electorally and politically right thing to do. Gavin Newsom's poll numbers have shot up. That is not by accident. And it's not happening in a vacuum. There's a reason that it's happening. It's because the electorate is desperate, is thirsty, is starving for leaders who are actually going to put their necks on the line and start fighting for the people that they represent. And at a time when there is an identity crisis on the left in the Democratic Party, this would be a good time to redefine the party as brawlers, as fighters, as people who recognize the stakes of this moment and are willing to actually meet it with the urgency that it deserves. This is the perfect time to redefine ourselves. All these people racking their brains over what we do about the future of the Democratic Party. We have fewer and fewer people registering as Democrats. We lost the House and the Senate and the White House. We have a gerontocracy problem on the left, and everybody's racking their brains on how to fix this. Everyone's looking for the next Joe Rogan. This is the answer. Get people in office who have positions that they care about, that they are passionate about, and fucking fight for them. This is the moment. If ever we were to deploy a strategy that we think might be popular, this is it. And we're seeing that it's popular because it's reflecting itself in the polling. Newsom's poll numbers for some prospective 2028. Look, I don't give a shit about 2028. That's the last thing on my mind. We're lucky if we can get through 2026. But Newsom's poll numbers on a prospective candidacy in 2028 have more than doubled. I think from 10% just a few months ago to 24% now. This is what people are saying that they want. They are showing it. They are broadcasting it. They are grabbing these politicians by the shoulders and shaking them and saying, this is what we need. We need fighters. We need brawlers. We need assassins and killers, all metaphorically speaking. That's what we need. And the more people who step up and show that they're willing to do that, the better off the party will be. And by the way, the better off those individual politicians are going to be. And I don't care if they're doing it because they have political ambitions. I don't care if they're doing it because it is the morally right thing to do. I am unmoved by that. I don't care what's in their hearts. What I care is that they get it done. That's what I'm focused on. If you want to do it because you want to use it as a launching pad for your 2028 presidential bid, more power to you. But you're doing it, and that's what matters to me. You don't need to be pure of heart. Like, this is politics. I'm not looking for my politicians to be my spiritual leader or my partner, my spouse. I don't care about that stuff. I want politicians in office who recognize the threat that we're contending with and are willing to fight fire with fire. That's what I'm looking for. And I would imagine that a lot of people are with me on this. Granted, there might be some people who aren't, but look, I can only speak for myself. You can let me know in the chat right now if you agree, if you think that is the right strategy, or, and this is a little bit of a leading statement here, or if you're perfectly content with Democrats being the party of strongly worded letters. The party where the parliamentarian says no, and so Democrats just decide to listen to the parliamentarian because at the end of the day, that's what they're there for, to adhere to the guidelines and provisions and norms set forth by the parliamentarian, to adhere to the unwritten rules of the filibuster, which, of course, Republicans never listen to because when it comes to their priorities, judges and tax cuts, they eliminated the filibuster. But for everything else, Democrats have to keep the filibuster in place. Republicans, they get to eliminate the filibuster. Democrats have to be the adults in the room and abide by the provisions set forth by the filibuster because otherwise it wouldn't be good governance in action. And so we play two different games where we're on two different playing fields. Democrats have to be the adults in the room. Republicans, it's just baked into the cake that they won't be. And so because those expectations are set forth, we have to continue engaging, trafficking in this delusion that we have to that we get in trouble when we don't abide by the rules in our with the bar that was set up to here, while Republicans barely have to overcome the bar that was all the way down on the floor. It is asymmetric warfare on full display here. So we should be seconds away here. Let me just make sure that there's no issue. Yep, we are moments away. Any second now, we will have an address from Gavin Newsom. So for those who are watching right now, if you would like to see this address, which I highly recommend, please make sure to stay on this channel. And by the way, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, that is a great way to support my work. It is completely free, but again, it's a great way to show some support for independent media more broadly. This way you can stay on top of live streams like this one, as well as breaking news videos and interviews as well. So I would very much appreciate that. Again, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe, but it's a great way to support my work and to stay on top of the news like this. For those who are asking, yes, we are supposed to be starting any second now. I've also heard from the governor's team that they are starting any second now. So I would imagine within the next minute or 2 or 3, we will have some movement here. Michelle asks, how am I and Aston? Aston is my dog. He is doing very well. My mental health is a little bit precarious working in politics, but the dog is doing fine. And at the end of the day, that's what matters most. Okay, in the meantime, if anybody has questions, let's use this opportunity to answer some questions while we have it. So you can go ahead and go in the chat. Actually, I think we may have some movement here. Yes, I've just heard from the governor's team, and they are saying that we're basically starting right now. So for those who are tuning in, who are hoping to hear from Governor Newsom, seconds away here. In the meantime, some advice that I would give for folks who are looking to put some pressure on other Democratic governors, reach out to them. Folks are not immune to pressure. So if you live in Washington, if you live in Oregon, New Jersey, New York, Maryland, if you live in Colorado, reach out to your elected officials. Jared Polis in Colorado, for example, is term limited. He's up in 2026. Kathy Hochul in New York, up in 2020. Well, she's not up in 2026. She's running for re-election in 2026. Now is the time to pressure these people to take positions that they will fight fire with fire and do what Newsom is doing here in California. This is the time to be aggressive. So lean on these people. They are not immune to pressure, and certainly not immune to pressure from their own base. So if you live in one of these states where we can extract some seats from these maps, do it. Now is the time to do it. And look, I get the argument that engaging in this Cold War, where one side gerrymanders the maps and the other side gerrymanders them more, and then the subsequent side gerrymanders them more than that, and then we just descend into the depths of this battle. I get it. But the reality is that we have been here before. Republicans have gerrymandered maps in Utah, North Carolina, Ohio, Texas, Florida, Georgia, Wisconsin, all over the country. And Democrats have sat idly by. And yes, we've gerrymandered a few weapons of our own. We have Illinois, we have Maryland, but the reality is that Republicans benefit far more than Democrats from gerrymandering, and only one party has introduced nationwide bans on gerrymandering, and that's the Democrats. Every Democrat voted in favor of it in 2021. Every Republican voted against it. So when we hear Kevin Kiley in California, Kevin McCarthy out in California, Ted Cruz in New York clutching their pearls and doing the whole fainting spell shtick about there being gerrymandering in California, we didn't start this war. We didn't start this mid-cycle redraw. It was the Republicans who did that, and furthermore, it is the Democrats who have spent time and time again trying to pass good government reforms that include nationwide bans on gerrymandering. If any Republican wants to introduce legislation today that bans gerrymandering nationwide, guarantee they get full support from Democrats. Full support. But notice that none of these people are introducing this legislation that's catching on with their party. I think Kevin Kiley introduced some legislation that would be a standalone bill. No one on his side is going to vote for it. And the reality is that the only reason Kiley introduced it is to save himself. So he had nothing to say back in 2021 when Democrats tried to include a provision in H.R. 1 that would ban independent redistricting, that would ban partisan gerrymandering. But now that his personal job is on the line, suddenly he's a champion for good government reforms. But doesn't matter. We'll still, even if the intentions are self-serving, introduce the legislation, get it up for a vote, Mike Johnson. Every Democrat will vote in favor of it. But they won't. Because the goal is not good government reforms, at least only for those people whose jobs are on the line. The goal is not good government reforms. The goal is not to ban partisan gerrymandering. The goal for these Republicans is to protect their own gerrymanders and to complain about Democratic gerrymanders. That's how they play. It's bad when Democrats do it, good when they do it. So I'm not here saying that gerrymandering is good. I'm not here espousing the virtues of gerrymandering. I think it sucks. But the reality is that Democrats cannot and will not unilaterally disarm, and that's what's important here. Republicans rely on the weakness, the fecklessness of the Democratic Party. That's why they've been able to gerrymander most of the states in this country with no pushback from Democrats. That's why they've been able to gerrymander to within an inch of its life places like North Carolina and Ohio and Florida and Texas and Wisconsin, which took us years to get out of. And yet, what did Democrats do with our weapons? California, New York, Colorado, independent redistricting commissions. Talk about unilateral disarmament. So I'm all for good government reforms, but it has to be across the board. No more unilaterally disarming. So now, our only job is to counteract this blatant power grab by Republicans that they're doing in Texas, in Missouri, in Indiana, in Florida, and I'm sure there's going to be a raft of other states where, some random Republican governor has big political ambitions and wants a pat in the head and a tweet from Donald Trump, and so he's going to decide, or she's going to decide to gerrymander their state even further. I have no doubt that that's going to happen. And so our job right now is to recognize that this threat is existential and to actually fight fire with fire. That's our job. And that means that we need Democratic governors to step up, recognize the urgency of the moment, use their power for good, make sure that Democrats have a shot at taking the House against these blatant power grabs by Republicans and to fight back.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'll get this started. I'm proud to be here with many of our legislative colleagues. I'm proud to be here with Pro Tem McGuire and, of course, our governor, Mr. Gavin Newsom. This is a dangerous moment for our country. And we are here to meet that moment as Californians, as legislators. President Trump doesn't believe in our democratic system. And it's clear that he'll do whatever it takes to hold onto power. That's what we saw on January 6th. He couldn't handle losing, so he sent a violent mob that terrorized our nation's capital, all to stop the peaceful transition of power. What happened yesterday in Texas is the same dangerous playbook. His MAGA allies in that state just gave themselves 5 more House seats at Trump's order. They want to rig the system so that there's no way Republicans can lose in the 2026 midterm elections. Let's call it for what it is. Donald Trump and Republicans don't want to be held accountable by voters. Not in California, not anywhere, actually, in this country. They don't want to be held accountable for cutting Medicare, Medicaid. They don't want to be held accountable for reckless tariffs that are raising prices at the grocery store every single day, and on many other goods. They don't want to be held accountable for illegal ICE raids that are terrorizing our neighborhoods. They don't want to be held accountable for the corruption that sees Donald Trump, his family, his closest friends rake in millions of dollars while everyone else struggles to get by in this country. The list goes on and on and on. Of course, Donald Trump doesn't want to be held accountable for his failures in this next election. That's why he is trying to rig it. Well, Mr. President, here in California, we are going to hold you accountable for your failures. And we will do whatever it takes to preserve American democracy and ensure that voters can still let you know in 2026 what they think of your job performance. And this bill is a temporary measure in response to an urgent threat. Californians can see that threat. Why? Because we are living through the consequences of Trump's policies every single day. And today, we are giving every Californian the opportunity to say no to Donald Trump's power grab and to stand up for our people, for our state, and for our democracy. And with that, I want to invite up here Senate Pro Tem Mike McGuire.
Well, good afternoon. I want to take a moment to acknowledge Speaker Rivas. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, and I'll continue to say it. He is one of the best in the nation. We are so grateful that he is helping lead California, and I'm grateful to call him a partner and a friend. And thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for all your work. I want to acknowledge the governor who has had the backbone to be able to stand up against Donald Trump, one of the few. And accountability is coming, thanks to California. I also want to acknowledge the senators, the assembly members who have moved this historic legislation forward today. And we are here this afternoon because we're putting our faith in our fellow Californians to do the sacred duty to walk into the voting booth, sit at their kitchen table, and do their best to do the right thing. Cast their vote in one of the most consequential elections that we will have in our lifetime. And let's be honest, let's get through the rhetoric. We all know we wouldn't be here in this situation if it weren't for the nefarious actions of Republican leaders in Texas and their boss, Donald Trump. Actions of Republicans in Texas that have now been compounded by inaction from Republicans in California. Let's be crystal clear. All of this entire circus could have been avoided, nullifying nearly a century of election protocols. We know that this is just the start. Redistricting is the first step in Donald Trump's playbook. He said the quiet part out loud earlier this week. They're coming after mail-in voting to disenfranchise tens of millions of Americans. Next stop, the census. Our Republican colleagues, all this week here in California, Republican leaders have gone on TV, had press conferences, did live events on their social media, expressing outrage about the action that California is taking. But what they forgot to mention is how we got here. We got here because of Greg Abbott, Republican leaders in Texas, and their boss, Donald Trump. They started all of this. And sometimes in life, you have to stand for the greater good, even though you may lose your job as an elected leader. Sometimes you have to tell your boss no. You have to do something constructive, do everything in your power to ensure free and fair elections. And that's what Democrats did today here in California. And certainly you have to do more than vote against redistricting reforms the way Republicans have year after year after year. Their votes are public. They have voted against the vast majority of independent redistricting reforms advanced in this legislature over this past decade. You know, it is offensive to be able to see these sham lawsuits that Republican leaders in California are advancing. We called it the Scaramucci of the lawsuits in the last 48 hours. The Supreme Court rejected it. And it's offensive because their brethren Their brethren are literally tracking elected leaders with state troopers, calling in the FBI, locking legislators in the chambers, and dragging a female legislator out of the bathroom just simply because she didn't have permission to go. Here is, I think, all of our concern. We've seen this story play out in history. The hypocrisy today may save them for today, but it won't save their hides tomorrow. Because the secret police and the Mar-a-Lago goons, they're going to find a way and a reason to come after them as well, just like they're doing Democratic mayors and leaders across this nation. All of us support independent redistricting here in California and every state in this union. One thing that we do not support is unilateral disarmament when the fairness of the 2026 election is being threatened. You know, other states may want to play games. California is the only state committed to fairness whose potential redistricting goes away the minute others drop theirs. I'm going to end it right here with this. Today was more than drawing lines on a map. It was about drawing a line in the sand to stop Texas, to stop Donald Trump from rigging this election. And the stakes are so high for California. Millions are going to lose health care. Our families will lose health care. Fire assistance will continue to be leveraged for millions across this state. People are going to continue to be snatched up off the street. Public education funding is going to dry up, and the governor will talk about a recent Supreme Court ruling that's going to hurt this state for years to come. One of the main reasons I think I voted for today is because this package of bills, the person that's going to be impacted the most is going to be waiting for me tonight at our kitchen table to tell me about his first week of school. My son, 4.5, started TK this week. Today's vote, regardless of what Republicans may say, today's vote is not about politics. Today's vote is about protecting people. It's about protecting this state, protecting our progress and everything that we stand for. It's about protecting the future, ensuring fairness, and trusting the voters. And I want to take a moment to say thank you to Governor Gavin Newsom for his leadership, for his tenacity, for his backbone. Can we please give him a round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To all of the leaders that are assembled here today, thank you for an outstanding job. Thank you for your faith and devotion to this larger cause, democracy that I think should unite all of us, regardless of our political party and political stripes. Let me just briefly reinforce, because I'm eager to sign a bill that no other governor in U.S. history has ever signed, a bill that will put the maps in front of the voters. We will be the first state in U.S. history to, in the most democratic way, submit to the people of our state the ability to determine their own maps. That simply has not been done. But I want to first just briefly back up and pick up a little bit on what the Speaker and the Pro Tem said, and just remind everybody what they reminded you that need to be reminded, all of us again, of how we got here. We got here because the President of the United States is struggling. We got here because the President of the United States is one of the most unpopular presidents in U.S. history. We got here because he recognizes that he will lose the election. Congress will go back into the hands of the Democratic Party next November. We got here because of his failed policies. Those are being exposed hour by hour, reinforced today by Walmart announcing they'll be raising prices because of the tax increases, because of the tariffs. Reminded every day by a slowing economy, growing mistrust, distrust all across this nation. Across the board, he is failing. He recognized that, and that's why he made a phone call to Greg Abbott, asking for 5 seats. Can't win by playing by traditional sets of rules. He plays by no rules. I remind you all the time, it's not the rule of law, it's the rule of Don. And we're standing up to that. We're responding to that. They fired the first shot, Texas. We wouldn't be here had Texas not done what they just did. Donald Trump didn't do what he just did. He went so far as to follow up and say that he didn't just want those 5 seats. He said he's, quote unquote, entitled to those 5 seats. Just pause and reflect on that. Everything should have just stopped there. President of the United States claiming he's entitled to 5 seats. That should put chills up your spine. Every Republican, not just Democrat and Independent, every American. Those enduring values that we celebrate, just celebrated 249 years, the best of the Roman Republic, Greek democracy, the rule of law, co-equal branches of government, popular sovereignty. What we'll celebrate, will we? Next year, the 250th anniversary. Masked men at the site of the Japanese that were interned and bussed in Little Tokyo last week in Los Angeles were sent right there in front of the Democracy Center as we kicked off this effort. That's a preview of things to come all across the United States of America. Mark my word, just as we let folks know what was going to happen in other cities, what is happening in Washington, D.C., we said 2 months ago, Los Angeles is a preview of things to come with the federalization of the National Guard, with the militarization of the streets of America. And I'll remind you, Donald Trump never sent the military, active duty military, in his first term or now even his second term, anywhere overseas. He sent them to a United States city. They remain federalized National Guard, interestingly, through Election Day. $175 billion in the bill that was just signed to reinforce the ranks of ICE, Homeland Security, for what is increasingly becoming self-evident to anyone with eyes wide open and any level of objectivity, a private army for Donald Trump, owing an oath only to him, not the Constitution of the United States. You just heard from the Speaker that vote-in-mail ballots are being threatened by the President of the United States. 80% of Californians, no coincidence, 80% submitted their ballots in the last election, 86% in 2022, 88% in 2020. He's trying to rig the election. He's trying to set up the conditions where he can claim that the elections were not won fair and square. Open your eyes to what is going on in the United States of America in 2025. That's what this is about. We're responding what occurred in Texas. We're neutralizing what occurred, and we're giving the American people a fair chance. Because when all things are equal, we're all playing by the same set of rules, there's no question that the Republican Party will be the minority party in the House of Representatives next year. We'll be transitioning, and I'll close, from this process that has unfolded over the course of the last few weeks to the campaign. After I sign these 2 pieces of legislation establishing a special session and the maps, I also will be signing a proclamation on November 4th, the people of the state of California, in a transparent and, as Speaker and Pro Tem said, temporary and democratic way, will have the opportunity to determine their fate and our collective future. And I couldn't be more proud, again, of the extraordinary leaders that are standing up for the rule of law, are standing up for the principles and those enduring values of our founding fathers. Thank you for getting us to this point. We have a lot more work to do to get this done on November 4th.
It's okay. We'll see it from here. Yeah. Well, here we go. Everybody's trying to get over there.
Can we do a quick photo? We'll establish the formality with the special election proclamation. We'll establish November 4th, this formal special. And we'll be transitioning nearby, and we'll have a chance to take all your questions. And we'll look forward to seeing you very, very shortly. Thank you all.
So as I've said before, this is exactly the kind of action that we need to support from these folks. And so good on them for getting this thing done. And also recognize that they did it in a democratic way. It's not just that they've done it by fiat, although, given the circumstances, it would absolutely be warranted. But they're bringing this thing in front of the voters, which even in our effort to fight back against Republicans, still managed to find a way to do it in a democratic, using the democratic process, as opposed to what's happening in Texas, which is by fiat. They just decide to redraw the maps because Daddy Trump feels entitled to 5 more seats, and when he beckons, Greg Abbott runs right over to him and says, "Whatever you need, sir." Which, for this whole shtick about Texas independence and Texas strong and Texas tough, you have this con man from Queens, this slick con man from Queens, issues his clarion call to these tough Texas Republicans, and they just grovel over to his feet like his dogs. So it is pretty amazing to see that play out in real time. But with that said, I know that the majority of my audience is living in California. I would presume that the vast majority of people who are watching right now, there's a good contingent of you from California. I know that everybody knows somebody in California. And so our job here, we've got 10 weeks to go. This thing is not a done deal. It's going to take a group effort. It's going to take buy-in from every single person to recognize that we have an off-year referendum that's going to be on the ballot where a minority of voters are going to be able to either approve or reject this thing. Republicans are going to pour so much money into killing this referendum that it will make our heads spin. And so our job is to counteract that national spending from all of these billionaires. And by the way, that's happening given the fact that we won't see much billionaire spending here, because in California the rules are that any funds that are allocated toward this effort have to be disclosed, and these billionaires know that if they help this effort in defiance of Donald Trump, that Trump will retaliate against them and their businesses. And so there is a freeze happening among Democratic billionaires who don't want to participate, knowing full well that Trump is perfectly willing to and has used the federal government as a cudgel against these people. So there will not be billionaire spending in California on the Democratic side. There will be I think this is the actual metric measurement, a fuck ton of spending from the rest of the country, where those billionaires will pour money into defeating this thing in California, because if they can defeat it in California, they won't have to worry about the rest of the country. California is the weapon. California is drawing 5 new seats and shoring up 4 other swing seats. That is a 9-seat swing from where we're at right now. That is a huge boon to Democratic prospects moving forward. The rest of the Republicans across the country know that if they can defeat this thing in California, they're good. Even if they gerrymander Illinois and get a couple seats out, 1, 2, 3 seats out max, even if they gerrymander Maryland and get 1 more seat out, even if, in 2 cycles from now, New York is able to squeeze a few seats out, although we'll see how much appetite Kathy Hochul actually has, because she's said the right things, and yet there's not a ton of action happening right now in that state, so we'll see what happens. But regardless, all of it points to the fact that if they can defeat this thing in California, then they're good to go. And they know that. So they're going to pour all of their money, they're going to put all of the eggs that they have into the basket that is killing this thing in California. So our job is to fight back on our side and make sure that everybody that we know, everybody in your social circle, everybody in your family, everybody at work, your neighbors, your friends, whoever it may be, understands that there is an off-year referendum happening on November 4th. And by the way, it's going to cost a lot of money to do so. So if you want to donate to that effort, I'm going to pull a donate link right now and drop it on this in the chat, because it's going to, again, take everybody buying in here. And if you have anything to be able to contribute to this broader effort, this is the whole ballgame. Our ability to win the House moving forward in 2026 and beyond relies on us defeating this thing, having this thing succeed against the attacks that Republicans are putting forward to defeat it. So let me just, because clearly as I fumble my way through this, I can't do two things at once. So here we go. I'm going to drop it in the chat right now, and I'm going to pin it. If you have not yet had the opportunity to donate, and if you would be so kind as to donate, this is a great place to spend money. I try to be very careful and judicious about where I ask folks to donate, but you're not going to find a better cause than this, because if we're able to get this map referendum through, then that means that Democrats can head into 2026 with a chance of actually holding the House, a chance of ending Donald Trump's legislative agenda in his presidency in its tracks in January of 2027. So all of the cards are on the table right now. We have only 10 weeks here. It's not like we have a long runway. It's not like we're talking about something that's going to happen, in 18 months from now. It's not like we're worried about what's going to happen in November of 2026. We have time to worry about that. This is 9 weeks away. This is going to happen in like a month and a half, or just over 2 months at this point. So it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of resources. I'm working with some folks to do something bigger on this, so stay tuned on that front, because I promise there will be more as far as activations to get people involved in this whole process. So stay tuned. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, because I'm going to give you more information on that very soon. And just look, visibility is going to be a major component of all of this. Republicans will rely on Democrats not knowing that this is going to happen. So I'm here to tell you today and tomorrow and the next day and every day between now and November 4th that this is happening, that get your friends and family, coworkers, neighbors in California out to the polls. We will have ballots sent to us, low lift, to get them filled out and sent back. Make sure that this legislation, this motion passes. I think it's called ABA 8 or AKA 8. I can't remember. I think it's ABA 8. In any case, it'll be very clear what this referendum actually is, and that will make sure that we can temporarily suspend the Independent Redistricting Commission for a few cycles while we counteract this Republican power grab happening at the hands of Republicans in Texas, Missouri, Indiana, Florida, and those are just the states that we know of right now. So, with that said, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being part of this fight. And please put some pressure on elected officials in your states. If you don't live in California, know that you can wield some influence in Oregon, in Washington, in Colorado, in New Jersey, New York, Maryland. So lean on these governors. Make sure that they know the stakes of this fight. Write them. Call their offices. Show up at town halls. Tweet at them. Post to them. All of your voices matter. So I would highly recommend that you use them in this fight, because if not now, when? All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll talk again soon.